Good morning, children. Welcome back to the lesson Packing, written by Jerome K. Jerome. I hope all of you have gone through the first 5 paragraphs that we did yesterday. Before we start for today, let us make an immediate recap of what we have already discussed. The chapter started with the concept of packing. There are 3 gentlemen, author, his friends George and Harris. First of all, author offered himself to pack, and immediately his friends fell into the suggestion. But that irritated the author the most, because he did not like his friends sitting idle and watching what he packed. Actually, his intention was to boss the work, to superintend the work by keeping his hands in his pocket and moving around, giving some suggestion. But his own words trapped him, and he started packing. And finally, when he finished, Harris asked one question, whether he had packed the boots in. Immediately he started searching for that, and he came to know that he had forgotten to pack it. Okay. Then finally, one more idea that struck the author was whether he packed his toothbrush. So that was the most troubling thing when he wanted to pack something. And nowadays he resorted to a new plan, that is to wrap the toothbrush in his handkerchief and keeping it in the pocket, so that he could avoid packing and repacking and to finding it out. Okay, so now let us continue with the lesson. We are at page number 83, paragraph number 6. Paragraph number 6. Of course, I had to turn every mortal thing out now, and of course I could not find it. I rummaged the things up into much the same state that they must have been before the world was created, and when chaos reigned, of course I found George and Harris 18 times over, but I could not find my own. I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. Then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once more. So dear children, author wanted to search for his toothbrush in the bag, and he started rummaging. What do you mean by rummage? Rummage is a new word for you. All of you can write down the word meaning. That is search in a hurried or careless way. Rummage, you will not mind what happens to the thing, so you will search it in a very frantic way, in a mad way. If you search for something, that is called rummage. It is pronounced rummage. Okay, so what was he rummaging? He was rummaging for his toothbrush, and sorry to say that he could find George's brush or Harris' brush some 18 times, but he could not find his own, and he felt as if chaos reigned. What is chaos? Confusion. Well, if you write down the word chaos, if you do not know, chaos means confusion, reigned means ruled. Confusion ruled for the time being, and he could not find his toothbrush, but whereas he could find Harris and George's toothbrush for 18 times. And finally, what did he do? You know, he just shook the bag. Then finally it fell. It was found where? Inside a boot. So where was the toothbrush found? Question could be there, will be there. The toothbrush was found inside a boot. And what did the author do then? He repacked once again. You can see in the picture. The picture is showing how he was searching for it. He has opened the bag, you can see, and things were all taken out once again. And when he shook the bag, he could find his toothbrush was stuck inside a boot. and he repacked it again. Now paragraph number 7. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. George came out with a question. What was the question? Whether the author had packed the soap inside the bag. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it was in, and I slammed the bag and shut and strapped it again, and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. Actually, now the author is not worried about whether the soap was in or out, and he closed the bag, he slammed, okay, and shut the bag, and even applied the strap, okay. But suddenly he remembered whether he packed his spectacles, okay. So he had to open the bag again, and it got shut up finally at 10:05 p.m. night. 10:05 p.m. he completed his packing, and then the three remained the and then there remained the hampers to do. What is hampers? Hampers is a small basket, okay, to carry the food items. You can see in the picture, it is in the picture, it is there, hampers feature is there. So what was left now? Hampers, that means food items to be packed. Harris said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time, and thought that he and George had better do the rest, and I agreed and sat down, and they had a go. And finally his friends George and Harris agreed to pack the hampers, and by then author decided to take rest, okay, and allowed the friends to go on with the packing of hampers. Okay, they began in a light-hearted spirit. Both the friends, I mean Harris and George, started the work in a very light-hearted spirit, evidently intending means aiming to show me how to do it. I made no comment, I only waited. Generally, author wanted to give some comments, but this time he did not comment at all. He sat quietly with the expectation of George and Harris is the worst packer in this world. According to author, who are the worst packers in the world? George and Harris. And I looked at the piles means things are kept in a pile, okay, piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and peas and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc. All these things are to be packed in the hamper, and felt that the thing would soon become exciting, and it would be an exciting incident or experience for George and Harris to pack all these things. So question can be there, what are the things to be packed in the hampers? Kettles, bottles, jars, peas and stoves and cakes and tomatoes. And it did means there was exciting moment. They started with breaking a cup. So how did they start packing the thing? By breaking a cup. That was the first thing they did. They did that just to show you what they could do and to get you interested. So dear children, they started packing by breaking a cup. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of tomato and squashed it, and they had to pick out tomato with a teaspoon. So what was the blender performed by Harris? He packed the strawberry jam, that is something heavy, and he put it on the tomato, and what happened to the tomato? Squashed, crushed. Squashed here means crushed. And finally, how did they take the tomato out? With a teaspoon. They kept the heavy thing on tomato. That's why author said they are the worst packers. And then it was George's turn, and he trod on the butter. What is trod on? Means stepped on. Tread, trod, trodden. That's the first word is tread, T-R-E-A-D. Then trod, then trodden, third form. So stepped on the butter, and I didn't say anything, but I came over and sat on the edge of the table and watched them. And what blender did George do? George stepped on the butter. Okay. And who watched it? Author watched it. Okay, you can see here, you can see in the picture that George stepped on the butter, and butter sticking on his chappals or shoes. Okay, and it irritated them more than anything I could have said. I felt that it made them nervous and excited, and they stepped on things and put things behind them and then couldn't find them when they wanted them, and they packed the pie piece at the bottom and put heavy things on top and smashed the piece in. Okay, what did they do? Again, like Harris, when he kept the strawberry jam on top of tomato, the same way they kept heavy things on soft items like piece. Piece, what do you mean by piece? Piece is a sweet item. Okay, sweet item that you eat. So, and what happened to those pieces? They were smashed, and they upset salt over everything. And not only that, they upset salt they spread all on everything. And as for the butter also, on butter also they kept the they upset the salt on it. I never saw two men do more with 1 and 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. Actually, here is a humorous scene, dear children. Now let us see, that is the butter scene. Okay, butter is there. Butter, all of you know. What do you call? Benne. In Kannada you say benne. Okay, after George had got it off his slipper. Actually, George stepped on the butter, benne, and what did he do? He removed it from the slipper and kept it on the and tried to keep it inside the kettle. Okay, they tried to put it in a kettle, but it wouldn't go in, and that was sin wouldn't come out. They did scrape it out at last and put it down on a chair. So what did they do with the butter? They tried to keep it in a kettle, but it is not going inside. So finally they scraped it out and kept it on the chair, and Harry sat on it. Idiot Harris sat on it, and it stuck to his buttock. Now the butter is on the buttock, stick to him, and they went looking for it all over the room, and both of them started searching for it. Actually, absent-mindedly, Harry sat on the chair and the butter stuck on his buttock, and both of them were now searching for the butter. It's a very humorous scene, dear children. I will take my oath, I put it down on the chair, said George. George said, no, I kept it on the table, chair, staring at the empty seat, and on the chair it is not found. I saw you do it myself not a minute ago, said Harris. Harris also agreeing that he happened to see that George keeping the butter on the chair. Then they started round the room again looking for it, and then they met again in the center and stared at one another. Both of them started searching here and there, and finally they were staring each other. Where had the butter gone? Okay. Most extraordinary thing I ever heard of, said George. George said, I never happened to see a situation like this. So mysterious, so doubtful, so secret, said Harris. Then George got round at the back of Harris and saw it. Finally, George happened to see that butter was stuck at the back of Harris. Why, here it is all the time, he exclaimed indignantly. Angrily he said, hey, it is here at the back. Where? Cried Harris. Harris asking, where? I can't see. Can you see at your back? No. So Harris couldn't find it. He couldn't see it. Spinning around, he is rotating. Spinning around to see. Stand still, can't you? Roared George. George, out of anger, said, stand still, don't make a movement. And flying after him, and they got it off and packed it in the teapot finally. So they removed the butter from the back of Harris and kept it back into a teapot. Dear children, today we will stop here. Let us, and you all enjoyed the humorous scene here, that is butter scene, and what happened to the butter. Okay, now let us make a review of what we have discussed today. Today we started with searching for the toothbrush, and finally author could find it in one, it was stuck in one of the boots. Okay, and he repacked it again. Then George asked one question whether soap was in, but he was not worried about the soap, but at the same time he was worried about his spectacles that was packed inside. So he had to open it again to take it out, and finally he completed the packing at 10:05 p.m.